This is my buddy Bonnie, and this is Bonnie's roadmap to success. And she's a great little dog, but she was a little bit fearful when I first came in. And so we started off by doing what I call, it's just basically a treat trail. And so basically what I did is I had a trail of treats that went from outside the front door right there, going all the way down the sidewalk. I was sitting in the street facing that way. So when Bonnie approached me, she approached me from behind. For dogs, you don't want to approach directly from behind. They're more likely to bite. You might be able to let go. It might hold it to the position right there. Let's try letting it go and see what it does, Shiloh. Oh, there we go. Look at that. All right. So you might want to practice that without anybody there, so that so she gets used to just going down this tree trail. And I like treats. And at the end of the tree trail, there's just a pile in the grass, and you're doing the find it. But eventually, what I like to do is, like, if maybe Shiloh comes home from school someday and when somebody else is walking her, maybe Shiloh's sitting there at the end of it. Now I put it was trash day, so I put the recycle and I think the regular trash can in front, so she couldn't see me out the front door. But I want her to practice kind of getting all those treats and then something good happening at the end. When she meets somebody new for the first time, if you can arrange for her to meet them outside, there's more distractions, and that helps her not focus on the things she's scared of. It also helps because she has an infinite number of escape routes. Bonnie, you can put. You want to just put it on the ground, let her see it's empty. If it is it empty? No, okay. Bonnie is demand barking, so Mom's going to take care of that. All right. So we started off. Bonnie already has a marker word in place. In lieu of marker words, I would recommend the guardian practice the pause interrupter lesson. So that's basically pairing a sound that interrupts the dog to get its attention with hand targeting, which is something Bonnie already knows. So if Bonnie was doing something I don't want, I could say, touch. Yes. So she came over and touched her nose to my hand. You could adjust that if you need to. Now I stopped her from doing whatever it was she was doing before. Now she's probably going to go right back to it. So when I do the pause interrupter lesson, I'm going to make a sound that she finds interesting. So I'm going to either say beep, 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 like beep, 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 or beep, 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 beep. You seem to like that one. Or, but not everybody can make that kissing sound. So when she makes that sound, she looks at me, then I say touch. All attention for dogs is rewarding. So if your dog is barking, you say stop. You're telling your dog barking is a great way to get my attention, which is probably not what you want to do. But if you make that sound, they look at you. You're not giving them attention. You're just making a sound that they have to find interesting. They look at you. When they do, you say T-O-U-C-H and chop your hand. The dog runs over. You have redirected them away from the window, away from the door, whatever it was they were doing. Now at that point, they're going to go right back to it unless you give them something else to do. So at that point, I would probably go in the kitchen and grab some baby carrots, and I would maybe drop them on the floor somewhere else. And so drop them for about a half a foot away. The movement is going to attract her attention. She's going to sit down. She likes carrots and chew on those carrots. And that releases a lot of anxiety. It also helps her feel good. And you've given her something to do as opposed to barking at the window. All right. That was a pretty good lesson, don't you think? Yeah. We also went over what I like to call celebrating. Celebrating is basically rewarding your dog when it offers behaviors that you like that you do not ask for. Remember, all attention is rewarding. So if I say, don't do this, I'm telling her doing this is getting my attention. So most of us accidentally train our dog to jump, get in the trash, bark, chew things, steal Shiloh's magazine and chew it off the cover. Because when I do that, Shiloh chases me or Mom says no. So we undo that by waiting for her to do the things that we like. So I'll do it when she comes back over here. Right now she's sniffing, but right now she came to Mom. Mom could have said yes and petted her. I will do the same thing, like, yes. I didn't ask her to come to me, but she did. That's still something I find desirable. The more you reward the dog for the things that you like, the more they will offer those behaviors. So I invite everybody in the family to say, celebrate. So if somebody says, here, come up here. Up here. So let's say she sits down next to me. We'll wait for her to do it. And Shiloh tells me, celebrate. I would just say yes and pet her under her chin. I don't need to know what it is. Shiloh saw it, or Mom saw it, or Dad saw it, so I'm just going to take their word for it. So celebrate means you're missing an opportunity to reward her, Bonnie for doing something we like her doing. And we're just going to say yes and pet her. And after a while, you'll kind of start to see it, and Bonnie will walk up and you'll say yes and pet her, and you'll continue talking with your friend or playing video. You don't even be aware of the fact that you're doing it, but you're teaching her manners, teaching her how she can get attention, and helping her practice the desired behaviors versus the things you don't like. Let me see, what else did we go over? We went over some creative forms of exercise. I recommend feeding out of a snuffle mat. You can get a Sir Bob-a-lot, or there's an Omega Paw tricky treat ball. There's other sort of puzzles that you can get for your dog. The snuffle mat's great because it makes them use their nose, and that drains a lot of energy. Remember, you can use exercise to set her up for success. If you're going to practice what I just talked about off camera about there's a neighbor that we want to walk to school. And so if we exercise her a little bit in the morning before we do that, that might make it easier for her to practice and do that particular activity. While we're on that, I'll talk about that activity. So she's squirrely about kids she doesn't know, which is not unusual. A lot of dogs are like that, unless they're raised with a lot of little kids in a positive way. So what I would do, this is kind of a theme throughout our whole session, and really for what I do for a living. Most people fail to train their dogs or modify their dog's behavior because they go at their pace and not at the dog's pace. So if the dog can only do one step and you go, I'm going to do all 12 steps, guess what? The dog's going to fail. You're not going to be successful. You're going to be frustrated with your dog. Your dog's going to sense you were frustrated when you do the experiment or the exercise, and they won't do it again. So we go at whatever the pace the dog can do. So in this case, we're going to basically use the licking concept. Licking and chewing release oxytocin and serotonin. So what we're going to do is we're going to have basically the neighbors inside their house, and we're going to be sitting with Bonnie on the street. And we're going to have a spoon with cream cheese on it. And we're going to be talking to our neighbors on the headphones. And as soon as we say yes or whatever it is, they're going to open the door. And as soon as you say yes, you're going to let Bonnie lick that, and I can control where she licks by holding it in front of her. So she's licking it, the door opens. This is what we call an incompatible behavior. I can't lick and bark at you at the same time. And I like the licking, and you're far enough away where I feel like I'd rather lick than bark. So they open the door, Bonnie's licking, and then they close the door. And when they open the door, they can see the child that is going to be walked to the school just standing there. And then they close the door, and then the spoon goes away. And then we do that again, and this time maybe the door stays open a little bit longer. While Bonnie is looking at the child, she's licking the spoon. As soon as the door closes, the spoon goes away. And eventually we're going to leave it open longer, and eventually we open it long period. I was going to say that next. And then we were going to basically wait until the dog, I was going to say, you might want to hold that with your hand and then tilt it a little bit more, a little bit harder to tilt it that way, the top part. Nope, like this. Nope, with the phone part. Like this. There you go. There we go. Perfect. I just need, I have a director, Shiloh, the director, she's doing a really good job. So, all right. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to have the child at first just sitting there, and we're going to keep the door open for short periods and gradually longer periods. Eventually, we're going to have the child move their hand and slow, and then move the other hand. And I would have the parents have the child know how to play red light, green light. If Bonnie starts grumbling, you on your earbuds, you say, stop, and then the parents say red light, and the child freezes. We close the door, and then the spoon goes away. At first, the child is moving a little bit, then they're moving a little bit more, then they're moving a little faster and faster. Eventually, the child's doing jumping jacks and doing all this stuff, and Bonnie doesn't care because she's sitting there licking, and she's practicing not reacting. The last stage for this is the child would actually start walking, open the door, and start walking towards Bonnie. Maybe open the door and walk on the 3 steps onto the porch, and then whoever is coordinating says, okay, that's enough, and the child turns and walks back inside, and the spoon goes away. So maybe the child walks now next time 4 steps, and then they walk back in, and the spoon goes away. They walk 5 steps. Eventually, they're walking all the way down the sidewalk and turning and walking all the way back. Their body's just sitting there licking. And you can actually use cream cheese, peanut butter, or frozen yogurt, and if you freeze it, cream cheese and frozen and peanut butter, it'll last a little bit longer, especially if it's not a super hot day. So practice this at times on a Saturday, when the street is quiet, there's not a lot of stuff going on. Get to the point where the child can come all the way towards Bonnie. Maybe they and they come out to the Bonnie, and then they have a spoon, and they let Bonnie lick it. So Bonnie's like, I like it when this child comes towards me. Good things happen. And then eventually, maybe with the child holding the spoon and you walk to the end of the block, and then walk on back, and then the child goes home. So you're helping the dog practice, and maybe the end of the block is too much. Maybe we'll do one house, then go back, then 2 houses, then 3 houses. We're gradually going to add more criteria. And what I'd like you to do is practice going to the school on a Saturday or a Sunday when there's nobody there. So she gets practice that whole experience without the craziness of all the kids there. So you're helping her practice this in stages and helping her work up to the real world situation. Celebrate, yes. I would pet you right now, but you'd probably get up. So celebrating, again, is really important. So make sure you get in the habit of doing that. Out of all the things I cover, it's probably the most impactful thing, but only if people get in the habit of doing it. So say celebrate to each other. And remember, you only have 3 seconds. So somebody says it, yes, and just pet them right away. You don't have to ask what it is. Did you chew that? I think you did. Yes. All right. So let me see. We also went over the bucket game. The bucket game is an impulse control exercise. This is a lack of impulse control. I asked the mom, I said, do you remember when last time you told your child to go to the room and work on their impulse control? And she looked at me like I was crazy, because we don't do that. How do we develop impulse control? We ask the child to wait before being excused from the dinner table. You have to do your homework before you can play your video games. You have to do your chores before you can play with your friends. So those are things the child doesn't want to do, but it helps me practice controlling. I want to do this, but I can't do it yet. I have to wait for something else, then I can do it later. If we want her to not bark, not jump up, not run away, she has to practice impulse control exercises. For that reason, I went over the relaxation protocol. I think it's called the protocol for relaxation, which is basically what we did where we had her stay on the bed. So I'm going to email you, when you watch this, if I haven't emailed you the 15 days, message me, I'll send you the PDF of the 15 days. It gets longer and longer. After a while, it's like 15 minutes of what we were doing, but she's practicing just sitting there relaxing. We also went over the consent lesson. Remember, don't start petting her on top of the head. Dogs do not interpret you starting them petting on top of the head as a positive. They interpret that as you trying to dominate them. So pet them under their chin or on their chest or on the two shoulders. Dogs' affirmation signals that they're indicating something is their nose goes up, they lean in on you, they put their paw on your hand if you're petting them, or they lick you. So those are all ways of dogs saying, I like what you're doing. Come here. Manners lesson. The manners lesson is basically if she is nudging me or pawing at me for attention or barking for attention, which I believe she does, she's saying, give me some attention, darn it! Which we like giving her attention, but at the same time, we don't want her to think that barking is the proper way to get attention. So if she was barking at me, come here. If she was barking, I would say, sit. Yes. If she sits, then I pet her. I say the marker word, then I pet her, and I give her as much attention as I feel like giving her. If I say sit and she does not sit, I'm on to the next thing. I'm playing a video game, I'm listening to some music, I'm checking emails on my phone, I'm doing other things. There's no punishment. Remember, all attention is rewarding. So if your dog does not listen to you and you ask for the sit 4 times, they're getting 3 times more attention or 3 more attentions than they would have if they listened to you. So the more you say it, the less you mean it. Try to get in a habit of just telling the dog once. Now, I had our director here practicing something like training for attention. Now, the treat pouch that I have is a mini treat pouch from PetSafe, and this is the one I prefer. I've tried a whole bunch of them. I like this one because you can clip it on your belt or leggings, and you can open it up, and it stays open like that. And you can close it, and nothing comes out. Also has a place where I can put poop bags, a clicker, and other stuff like that, and I can just clip it on my belt. So I filled this up with her kibble, and then our hero, in this case, Shiloh, walked around the room, and she asked her to come. If she came, she said yes and gave her a treat. Then she asked her for then she took a step away and asked for a sit. If she sits, she said yes, and gave her a treat. And then asked for a down and a hurricane and all the rest of the stuff that she knows. If our hero says, do this, and she does it, she said, here's a yes and gets a reward. If our director, Shiloh, says, do something, and she doesn't do it, and this is what she was doing. The director said, sit, and she laid down. If I give her a treat, I'm going to confuse her. So if you ask her to sit and she does something else, you just take a couple steps away and ask for something else. So I'd like this to be an activity that maybe we fill this up with kibble or treats, and then Shiloh does this once a day where she walks around the whole house. So I want Bonnie practicing listening to Shiloh in the living room, the dining room, the kitchen, and everywhere else, and knowing if I listen to Shiloh, something good happens. If I don't listen to Shiloh, Shiloh's off somewhere else, I'm the one missing out. I better listen to Shiloh in the future. And this will help with Shiloh's relationship. They already have a good relationship, but I think it will help with respect. Let me see, what else do we cover? I know.
The impulse thing with the barking with that is.
Yes.
Yeah.
We went over counter conditioning, but there's a video for that one, so I'm going to leave that one alone. Oh yeah, we went over to the dog bed. So to lure a dog to the dog bed, I like using fun words, so we decided to come up with a word of Idaho. So I'm going to have a dog treat here. I'm going to say Idaho, throw it on the dog bed, and you can't see it, it's off camera, but she didn't step on the dog bed. I only say yes if the dog steps on it. So Idaho, toss in the middle of the dog bed, yes. Now, after a while, you could use your hand targeting Idaho and wave her over, and as soon as she's on the dog bed, you say yes, and give her a treat. And if she stays there, I would maybe wait a second, give her another treat. If she sits, I would say yes and give her another treat. If she lays down, yes and give her another treat. The more time she spends on the dog bed, the more things she does, I reward her for doing that. And I usually put the dog bed between the couch and the TV, comfy place. If you want to put it like this, that's totally fine. But again, if you have it over here, I would put a lick mat. And over here is going to be a better place for her to have a dog bed. Over there is kind of excluded from the group. One of the worst punishments for the dog is to be excluded from the group. You have a couch here. You guys sit right here. She doesn't want to sit in the next room, essentially. So she probably doesn't use that dog bed as much as she would if it was in this room. And if you have guests come over, I would maybe have a lick mat and put it on the floor right over there so she can lay on her dog bed and lick that lick mat while the guest is here. So that's a nice way for her to kind of release those feel-good endorphins. Going to the dog bed is pretty easy, but if you forget how to do that, or let me know. But eventually, at first we say Idaho and throw the treat to the dog bed. But eventually what we want to do is say Idaho, and she goes to the dog bed, then we give her the treat. You were doing this with a Hurricane. You were saying, Hurricane with a treat in your hand. Hurricane, Hurricane, yes. And I have a treat in my hand. Hurricane, yes. Now I don't have a treat in my hand. Hurricane, yes. And then I go in here. And I forgot what I was going to go over earlier. Our director, Shiloh, was kind of saying, yes, and then giving the dog the treat. What we want to do is say yes, then reach in here and give the dog a treat. So we don't start the process of reaching for the treat till we say yes. We don't say yes until after the dog has done the action. And if she doesn't, then you just take a couple steps away. But if you kind of put your hand in here, she's going to think, I'm about to get a reward. So the little thing we did was we had our director hold their hand here, sit, yes, then I can reach in and get it. That was kind of a sit and a down, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. All right, now Shiloh, keep an eye on her sleeping. Like I said, I think, or not Shiloh, sorry, Bonnie. Keep an eye on her sleeping. Dogs sleep usually throughout the day. If she's only sleeping big blocks, I would try to maybe see if we can incorporate some downtime so she can practice that and make her not so crazy. All right, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. The bucket game. We went over the bucket game, impulse control exercise. I forgot to go over that. If I don't have that listed, message me after you get this video, and I'll link it a video for the bucket game there. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else you want me to go over? Yes, it's a good celebrate. You feel good? How do you feel? You feel good? All right, hold on one sec. Bonnie. Now, one other thing I want to mention is Bonnie is sound sensitive. That means sounds outside she normally barks at. What do you hear outside right now? The garbage cans being moved? I'm guessing that's something she normally barks at, right? Sometimes yes, sometimes no?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that might be a benefit of I'm here distracting her. But like the door, the counter conditioning at the door, that's an exercise. Again, do that with all the things that she has a problem with. All right, Bonnie, I really enjoyed working with you. This is my friend Bonnie, and this is Bonnie's Roadmap to Success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.